greatness within you. Have greatness within you. When you need a speaker, you need someone who can come in and captivate and have them on the edge of their seats. One who can command a standing ovation. I highly recommend a young man that will have people standing on their feet. A young man who commands standing ovations. A young man who has depth and range and knowledge that can really, really move them to another level. Ezekiel Taylor. Why? Because he has knowledge, he's entertaining, and he's powerful. You want a speaker who can have people on the edge of their seats. You want a speaker who's commanding, and he's just that. Powerful storyteller and can custom design the presentation to meet your needs. So think of that name, Ezekiel Taylor. He's the man. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, so your physical growth. But once you reach the point that you became a full-grown man, some of us later than others, but once you reach the point where you became a full-grown man, those hormones are actually assigned to external growth. You literally feel good when you begin to accomplish things.
You about to make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. As we think about speakers, think about people who are change agents, people who are giving people hope. Ezekiel Taylor is a person who has obviously created a mandate on his own life to leave his fingerprint, to leave his legacy of transforming people's lives around the planet. Thank you, around the planet. Thank you, around the planet. You have something special. You have greatness within you. Today, I want to do an interview with Ezekiel Taylor. He's a speaker, he's an entrepreneur, but most importantly, he's a person that's helping people to develop a vision of themselves in the future. Thank you so much for the time that we're going to be able to spend together.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate you coming out.
Good. I'm very excited about asking you, what was the transformative moment that caused you to want to be able to make people create a shift in their lives?
Well, I take you back to that day that we discussed and we were working on something called the interview.
Yes.
It was when I was sitting at the table with my Uncle Tony, and he told me that this house is a house of knowledge and you should really open up your home and begin to teach people more so from an audience perspective and not just personal one-on-one. So he really got me to thinking about what it is I actually have obtained as far as knowledge and just a whole wealth of resources that I have pursued all my life in order for me to have something to actually say. There are a lot of people talking, but everybody ain't got something to say.
Right. So your uncles, they stimulated within you a desire to, one, be a perpetual student, and two, to give people something of substance.
To give people something of substance, absolutely, because what I've experienced, even just growing up in the church, seeing the fact that people they would have problems, and I mean, you talk about ministers who would offer solutions, but nothing that's practical and something that you can put into action. And so this challenged me to go back and to just do some real study on what are the things that we can actually put into action so we can see something happen in our lives.
You know, in the time that I've spent with you, you remind me of a quote that I love by Henry David Thoreau, who said, "Do not go where the path may lead, but go where there's no path and leave a trail." And you have developed a unique way in which people can combine spirituality with practicality. What are the steps that you are sharing with people that will allow them to get a vision of themselves beyond their circumstances?
Well, we wrote a book called The Process of Fulfillment, 8 Extraordinary Steps to Accomplish Your Greatness. And so what I did find out that this thing is a process, and for us to just think that we're going to add Kool-Aid and sugar to the water and really need some fruit juice, I'm telling you, still drinking Kool-Aid. Yeah. So what we found out is that in order for us to have the quality of life that most of us attain onto or even dream about, in order for us to have this, we have to go through a process. And that process starts with dreaming, just going back and getting out of your own way. You know, I love when you begin to talk to people about dreams. And you told me a story once when you went over to Africa and you were talking to an audience and you found out that you were asking them to dream and they really didn't know how to dream anymore. And so what I did is I actually did some study and some research based off of that. I like to say that you alley-ooped me and I just dunked that thing. But I went in and I began to study what happens in the brain, what happens to a person by way of traumas. And really, people are stuck in an area because of traumas, because of some things that have happened in their lives that they just can't get past in order for them to dream again.
Well, one of the things we know, the workshops and seminars and presentations that you provide help people to get unstuck, because you help them to discover a part of themselves that they don't know right now. So you had to crystallize your thoughts beyond not just the dream, but things that can make the dream become reality. What are two major steps, I would say, that can help you do that?
Well, the first major step after you go and rediscover the dream is to really reevaluate your relationships. And I heard you say time and time again that people are either living together or dying together. And it really had me to go back and just look at some of the people who are around me, who once you even got them to a point where they begin to dream, that they're literally in some toxic relationships, in relationships with people who are not on their level. And I've given people a way to, in love, still in love, to separate themselves from people who are not going on that train ride all the way to the end.
And there's another power move that you encourage people to take in their lives, in addition to waking up and becoming aware of that dream and the steps they need to move it forward. What is that power step that can help them get to that next level?
That power step would definitely be to be more deliberate about growth. Everything in the environment is growing. And I wrote something in the book that began to deal with hormones. You know, your hormones were assigned to your physical growth. But once you reached the point that you became a full-grown man, some of us later than others, but once you reached the point where you became a full-grown man, those hormones are actually assigned to external growth. You literally feel good when you begin to accomplish things. And one of the things that I've seen time and time again, people do not complete tasks. And if you are a person that will not complete a task, there's no way you can really be deliberate about actually seeing some level of growth in your life. You know, people talk about abundance. And I've studied that word abundance, and it comes from the word porizo, which means a piercing through. So if you look at a seed and you actually see what's going on with the seed, a seed goes through a growth spurt and a process, and then it pierces through. That part of the seed goes through its own growth spurt and process, and then it pierces through the ground. But you know what, Mr. Brown? Most of what's taking place during the growth process is being done in an unseen realm. It's not until we actually see the external growth that we begin to celebrate. And this is something that we have to be more deliberate about. Allowing the process, allowing things that are taking place in your life to add that value to you.
You know, as we think about speakers, think about people who are change agents, people who are giving people hope. Ezekiel Taylor is a person who has obviously created a mandate on his own life to leave his fingerprint, to leave his legacy of transforming people's lives around the planet. Thank you so much, Ezekiel Taylor.
Thank you, sir.
You have something special. You have greatness within you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
This has been Les Brown.